was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle as to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us here on Global Morning. I'm Uyi Agmofwe, bringing you Global Television. Bringing you Global Morning on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Already, weekend, in the manner of speaking, has started, but we're going to continue to talk about very germane issues here at Global Television, particularly on Global Morning, just to be able to have a hang of what the developments are across segments of our lives as a nation and as a people. We understand that the government, the federal government that is, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, has made quite a number of appointments in the last few days. Recall that the president has just returned from the G20 summit in India, even though we know he had a stopover in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. All right, those are conversations we'll have later on, but we understand there have been a couple of appointments by the president, and those appointments are also talking points in themselves, especially when you look at Zaccheaus Adediji now being appointed as acting executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, effective immediately. That's very strategic, especially, again, considering the pivotal role, or if you like, mandates of the FIRS in the grand scheme of things. Again, more particularly from the revenue standpoint for the federal government. And then we're now hearing on a not very inspiring note that our borrowing again has jumped as of today. The debt is in excess of 87 trillion naira, and more specifically in the last 3 months, we understand that there has been a jump by about 75% in terms of indebtedness, of what some experts refer to as debt profile. Debt and borrowing, they go hand in hand, and this combination has formed a basis for concerns for many Nigerians. Even though the argument is that there's no country that doesn't borrow, there's no organization that doesn't borrow, but the consensus has always been that what you borrow for and what you ultimately spend your borrowing on are very, very critical, end to end. We'll have that conversation as well, and then we'll take a quick break now. When we return, we'll take a look at the papers for you. To stay with us. Let's turn to the papers, everyone. We'll begin with a Daily Trust newspaper this morning for you with a big story right there on the front page of today's issue of the Daily Trust. It says 3 days to deadline, FG yet to recover anchor borrower loans from farmers. 3 days to deadline, which is, of course, on Monday. You know, in Nigeria, share, their own share of the national cake. And we have seen scheme after scheme after scheme after scheme churn out that way. So the authorities are having a hard time recovering these loans. I mean, they are loans, no doubt about it, to support farmers, to support key players, stakeholders, particularly in the agri space. Federal government of poverty, despondency across Nigeria under APC government with two riders underneath. Says ruling party plotting one-party states, Catholic bishop seek urgent action to arrest increasing the right story says tells CBS as an educational institution, we are sometimes asked to provide information related to student records. Federal law known as FAR, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, protects the privacy of students' records and limits what an institution can release. Those under that story, Chicago State University confirms Tinubu attended the institution, graduated in 1979. President will permanently change Nigeria's narrative of poverty, insecurity. These are all stories on the front page of this day newspaper. Poverty is a big issue across Africa, but Nigeria being the largest economy, the most populated as well, it's even far more concerned about its own poverty burden. For many reasons. Remember, there's a former British Prime Minister by the name of David Cameron who had referred to Nigeria as fantastically corrupt and used that as a medium to talk about the poverty rate in Nigeria. At a point, was also the overtaken quarters of the West and sentiment away. I mean, if you take a very passionate look at the indices, you look at the Human Development Index, HDI for Nigeria, doesn't look very good, given, I mean, in sharp contrast with how natural resources with the human resources. I mean, look at Nigeria from one sector to another, whether they are based at home or they are in the diaspora. They are doing some of the smartest things. They are adding some of the most tangible value. They're creative. They are resilient. They are industrious. All right, on levels and scales that you can't beat. And then you back home and you're amazed at how much of poverty this nation still grapples with. And that has also put pressure on the government of President Bola Tinubu to ensure that the narrative changes very drastically for the better, at least from now till the next 4 years. And we hope that happens because look at our borrowing, for instance. Can we match our achievement as a nation with what we have borrowed? Now we're looking at excess or upwards of 70 trillion. all right, what Nigeria owes. What have we done with this money since foreign history started? Do we have enough value on the ground, whether it's in terms of education sector, health sector, or infrastructure? All right, what do we have that can come close to matching what we are borrowing? And then you hear things like, well, some individual accountable, and that's one of the things we do at Global Television, to hold those who have been settled with public trust, whether they elected or appointed to account. Because until we do that, it becomes a free-for-all where everybody just thinks they can do whatever pleases them and get away with it. No system succeeds like that. In fact, there's virtually no system that survives like that. All right? Okay, let's see our papers for you quickly. This will be the Guardian, the Blueprint newspaper. I should say, the next port of call this morning. On the front page of it, the Blueprint, it says Ganduje Kabi to FG. Great Livestock Ministry towards Fast Headers Crisis on page 6 with two writers here. It says recommends modernization through livestock reforms. Wants local authorities strengthened to manage relationships. Okay, that's on the Blueprint, front page of the Blueprint this morning. Attempts to force one-party rule on Nigerians, PDP BOT. Okay, that's on page 6. Adedeji, now acting FIRS boss, Nami proceeds on pre-retirement leave. On page, let's see what we can find out, page 8 of the Blueprint. Okay, Bago flags off 200 billion naira Mina Urban Renewal Road project. Fight against corruption tops Tinubu's priorities. Malagi. Then on the foot of the front page of the Blueprint newspaper, fire outbreak at Kainji Jeba, 330 kV line cause of 15-hour power outage. That's the federal government there addressing the cause of the power outage that was experienced across several cities in Nigeria yesterday. Nationwide blackouts will be investigated. TCN on page 6. That's the transmission company of Nigeria there talking. But we also have the Punch newspaper for you this morning. All right, the Punch, the front. Okay, says electricity consumers slam FG over power grid collapses because it has become a recurrent decima of some kind. Okay, manufactured goods imports gulp 6.7 billion in 6 months. That's on reports. Tinubu orders Nami's retirement, appoints Adedeji FIRS chair. Okay. Then the big story, Nigeria's debt jumps by 75% in 3 months, hits 87 trillion naira. How CBN loans to FG, new debts, promissory notes raise public debt by 37 trillion naira between April and June. Tinubu's reforms will improve debt sustainability. DMO assures Nigerians as latest figure overshoots agency projection by 10 trillion naira. World poverty completes East Road. He said that yesterday when he met with some notable figures from Rivers Stadium, a visit at the State House. Alake has provided qualitative leadership for and permits NURTW presidents, 21 others arrested for alleged killing. Zero allocation, Ogun LG chair impeached, Lapons Biodun. Those are all big stories coming from today's Punch newspaper. Let's look at the Tribune for you just before we take a break on show this morning. Tribune stories as well, starting from the very top of the page, which is one headline above the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune, again with a picture of Zaccheaus Adedeji, now the acting chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Tinubu names Zaccheaus Adedeji acting FIRS boss. appoints Yakubu NSIPA National Coordinator. Ahmed heads NCFRMI. All right, these are some of the new appointments that the president has made, and it all its effect. FG constitutes task force to tackle diphtheria outbreak. Alleged 100 million naira palliatives. Senate accuses NLC of blackmail. FG working out details on flight resumption to UAE. That's the Minister of Aviation, Festus Kaya Modest, speaking. Current hardship may lead to serious crisis. EP wants APC. BOT meets, says Supreme Court can correct PEPC judgment. Kicks against move towards one-party rule. That PDP story is on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune, today's issue. FG has no choice but to fund universities. It is constitutional. ASU is the one to whom that is credited on page 5 as well. Whoops, behead LP chief in Abia. Ondudi Elumelu loses as appeal court reaffirms LP candidate as a Delta rep. World Food Program, WFP, pledges $2.5 billion to fight hunger in Nigeria. Makinde approves Oyebola as new IHC. Of Ogbomosho completes traditional rites, enters palace. Who gets proposal for Ministry of Livestock? Coming through. Health crisis. Tinubu gets proposal for Ministry of Livestock on page 12 of today's Tribune. Ganduje committee submits everyone. We're still looking at papers for you. Big headlines across the dailies this morning here on Global Morning. Let's turn to 1 meters of stolen cruise seized in 1 week. IG orders on firearms production. Clashes. Gandhi panel seeks lives ministry. That's of the Nation newspaper. where it talks about how that federal government eyes AFDB's $250 million electrification projects. I recall that yesterday, even the TCN and of course Ministry of Power had reported some 15-hour blackouts on account of the fact that there had been yet another collapse of the national grid, which we are told very authoritatively was occasioned by fire at Kanji Jabi Dam. Okay, but the concern is, for how long are we going to continue to deal with collapse of grid today and collapse of grid tomorrow? However, some respite seems to be coming through now, courtesy of the African Development Bank, AFDB, some $250 million electrification project fund, which stakeholders and indeed Nigerians hope will be, if you like, explored maximally to help fix some of the teething issues that we're dealing with, some of them nagging issues, long-standing issues within the power sector. Okay, as we wrap it up on papers this morning, let's look at the Guardian for you. That is the UK Guardian. All right, says Starmer criticized by left and right over plan to end small boat crisis. Martha's rule to be introduced in England. All right, big stories this morning. Okay, Paul Dano on money, fatherhood, and exploring his dark side. For those who follow international stories, look up these headlines and all of their details from today's issue of the UK Guardian. All right. If you live in Nigeria, some people say, particularly in a place like the Federal Capital Territory, that is Abuja, a term like one chance will not come across as strange to you. Not necessarily because you've been a victim, but it's possible that all of that is happening because you know someone, a neighbor, a friend, a relative, a colleague, or someone in between who has been a victim. Increasingly, it has become a phenomenon, and the concerns have also continued to mount with questions such as what are law enforcement agencies doing to help curtail this very ugly trend. How many persons have been caught, prosecuted, and who knows, maybe were convicted, jailed? What should the public know by way of awareness? How much more work do we need to do as a government, as law enforcement, and as citizens to help make not just Abuja, but the entire Nigeria a much safer place for everybody to live in? Our partner correspondent, Abdullahi Danjuma, brings us a very brilliant, incisive, and eye-opening reporting in this regard.
An apparently peaceful traffic situation can turn into a nightmarish experience with the activities of the popular but ignoble criminals called witches. They are violent criminals who disguise as either commercial drivers or as passengers. The trick is to shout one chance, giving the impression that the vehicle needs only one passenger to move. But jump in, and you jump into a pile of miseries. Kabiru Adamu is a security consultant and confirms that Sparta crime has taken a massive car driven by a man and one other passenger at the back pulled over and hastily picked up. Destination Mbappe, but journey was doomed because a set of horrible things started happening at the inception of the trip.
Immediately I entered, passenger by my left was even as if he was and towards my side, and here was my neck. One here was trying to stop me from opening the door by my right. So as I tried to open the door by was ring on his finger or a rod. Mainly he punched me. That was when here the blood started oozing from here. So I was in the pool drinking my blood. Then he was they now told me, lie down. Okay, lie down. No, go lie down, ba. Struggling. They've collected my stuffs. They've collected my bag. I didn't have my bag with me. So they were telling me, no, go lie down, ba. So I thought they wanted to rape. So he was struggling me. I was telling me, no, you go this night. She won't cooperate. Die this, die.
Chidinma
this beggar before I was hidden behind. My phones and everything were collected, and it took me years to be able to stand in beggar and get a car and pick up a cab.
In a daring display of impunity, most of the criminals move around with POS machines for ease of stealing money out of the bank accounts of their victims. Security experts explain that this is very possible, especially with the emergence of new financial outfits who ignore the vigorous security check on customers before opening customer accounts.
A lot of the instances that we've monitored, they actually use the financial systems. Now, the reason for this is commonplace. Number one, we do not have a national database for individuals, Nigerians actually. And more importantly, even the banking system has not put in place infrastructure to reduce the possibility of this from happening. And then secondly, where it happens, to trace the perpetrators, arrest them, and then prevent further crime.
Abuja is Nigeria's seat of government. It is also a bubbling cosmopolitan city that attracts people from every part of Nigeria and even abroad, who come mostly in search of economic opportunities. But like many emerging cities facing the challenges of growth, crime has become a major issue. The June 2023 edition of Nigeria Security Report for Beacon Intel, a security consulting firm, shows an increase in crime in not just Abuja but other major Nigerian cities. The FCT Police Command says it is doing its best to fight crime in the territory in order to protect the security and welfare of citizens.
We have created a tactical squad called Anti-One Chance, which they have been charged with the responsibility of these one chance activities to wipe away, in conjunction with the DPUs as well. The DPUs are doing on the divisional level, and this squad that I mentioned, Anti-One Chance, has been deployed also to each division.
The FCT Police Public Relations Officer says the police needs the cooperation of the victims and other citizens in order to tackle this despicable crime called One Chance.
Sometimes these modus, they change their modus. Though we've identified the modus they are using, but when they know we identify them, they also change their modus. So when if you find yourself as a victim, it's only wise and advisable that you report these incidences to to the security agencies.
I actually did not believe that they could do anything about it. That was why I didn't report to them.
Our law enforcement agents that do not see this crime as a major crime. We've been in instances where we've monitored this development on behalf of our clients. We will report the cases by providing the telephone numbers that were used in the crime, the account numbers that were used in the crime. The response you get from the law enforcement is that they have bigger challenges. And this is the effort they will use in stopping this is not worth the benefit.
Victims survive and injuries are treated, but the emotional scar takes a very long time to heal.
It took me months or if not years to actually recover. And psychologically, everything around me now, even if I enter a cab now, I will start to be conscious of where I am because of everybody around me is a suspect.
The one that was repeatedly beating me, I didn't see the one in the front, his face, but the one at the back, I kind of saw his face. So when I see someone that looks like that person, I'll be like, are you sure it's not this man that beat me that night?
Kabiru Adamu says commuters should avoid flagging vehicles along the road. Instead, approved and designated motor parks should be used. Anjum Abdullahi.
Thank you, Danjuma, for that very brilliant reporting there. I mean, nothing to add, nothing to remove. It's all clear. The phenomenon itself, the impact, the adverse impact that it has on victims and society at large, the burden of nipping these as quickly as possible, which is in any case long overdue, and then how that citizens must also take their security in their hands while staying in strong collaboration with law enforcement can never be overemphasized. We're taking a quick break here on Global Morning. The conversation continues. Do stay with us.